Hello guys, my name's John, I'm the Geeky Fanboy, and oh my god, this first episode of the new season of Mr. Robot. Okay, let's take a step back. So, fourth season of Mr. Robot, it's finally here. I've been waiting this for so long. I binge watched all the previous seasons a while ago. Absolutely love them, so you can imagine how excited I was to finally watch this episode. Okay, so as always, I'm trying to keep the first couple of minutes spoiler free for those of you who haven't seen the episode yet, but after a while I'm gonna jump straight into spoilers and talk about all the crazy stuff that went down. Okay, so first off, was this episode good? Oh my god, yes. This might be the best episode of the entire show. Like, no joking, this episode was amazing. Like, twists, turns, shocks, good character moments, brilliant acting, brilliant camera work, just brilliant everything, honestly. So like this first episode is a bit longer, it's 1 hour long, which I think is good, and it basically works like an entire movie. You go through so many emotional reactions as you watch the characters, and we see every single important character that we know, so not just Elliot and Mr. Robot, we encounter everyone, so we get to see what happened to everyone after the end of season 3, which I think is good because I don't usually like it if we don't get to see certain characters in the opening of a new season. So yeah, it picks up right after season 3 ended. We get to see what happens there, the reactions to what happened at the end of that season, and I'm telling you already, the opening scene of this episode basically tells you what the tone of this episode and probably the entire season, what this is going to be like, and oh boy, shit gets rough. So I'm loving what they're doing. It's amazing. It's a bit hard to talk about this without giving any spoilers, but I can promise you it's thrilling, it's exciting, it's interesting. You have no idea what's going on. At the same time, you kind of understand what Elliot is and the others are trying to do, but again, the twists and turns, the surprises they give you in this episode are amazing. And there were like 3 or 4 moments in this episode where I was like, no, what's going on? Like, you have these moments again just in this one episode. Also, again, the camera work, the editing, the cinematography are absolutely gorgeous. Like, this is just one of the best looking shows out there right now. I absolutely love the cinematography in the way the characters are framed and how they work out things with the focus and keeping stuff in the foreground or in the background. Like, there's such smart like TV show making when you watch this, and it's just wonderful to watch. They're doing 1 or 2 things a bit differently without giving away too much, but like the whole narration stuff, the meta aspect of the show, they approach it slightly differently in this first episode without telling you how. But the entire episode I was kind of wondering, okay, how are they doing this? They haven't really, it's a thing I'm usually into, but they're doing something else. What are they doing? And I'm enjoying what they are setting up. It's interesting, especially towards the end, without giving away too much, but the ending of this episode, holy shit, there's just so much meta narrative going on, the framing, the storytelling, it's just perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into spoilers for this episode, so here's a spoiler warning if you haven't seen the episode yet. Okay, there's so much I have to talk about, I would love to talk about the ending first, but no, we're gonna try to do this chronologically, so I can talk about the best thing at the end. Okay, so like I said, the opening of this episode is already holy. What they did to Angela, I honestly did not expect that they would kill her off. I mean, sure, I might have expected they could kill her off at some point, but already in like not only the first episode, but the opening scene of the season, they kill her off. I was shocked, but also positively, because she was my least favourite character in the show. Like, she was alright, but I didn't really need her to be around. But when they killed her off in those first couple of minutes, I was like, oh damn, they actually did that. And that's what I meant when I said this episode sets the tone for what kind of weird shit is going to happen, and this moment just set up everything perfectly. Little side thing happened right after that when you saw White Rose with, I think it's a new assistant, the lady. I'm kind of curious as to see if we're gonna see more of her, because I was like, oh, new assistant, it's a lady, and she seemed very, very serious and determined to take Elliot down, so I'm curious as to see if there's something going on with that new assistant of White Rose. Also, a little thing that was kind of neat, they had to do a Queen thing, didn't they? They just had to do that. I absolutely love that when they cut to the business lawyer guy, you could hear another one bites the dust in the background, and the guy we're following is called Freddie, and I was like, you just had to do that. Of the Bohemian Rhapsody, you just had to do that, and I loved it. Okay, so before we move on to Elliot, some of the other characters we're seeing. Darlene, I have no idea. Like, she's not doing great, which is understandable. And I kind of like what they're doing with her, that she now seems to be the one. If you compare her to what Elliot was like in the first season, now she seems to be the one who's slowly going off the rails with drugs and everything, and starting to hallucinate her dead friends and all that. I'm curious as to see what they're going to do with her, if she is only hallucinating Angela, or if Angela might be alive. I hope not, because that would be stupid. But yeah, I want to know what's going on with Darlene. If it's only because, you know, she thinks Angela is dead, or if something else has happened to her, if the Dark Army is gonna get involved with her. I want to know what happens to her. We haven't seen too much of Tyrell yet in this episode. He's like the only one we only saw 1 or 2 scenes with, but I love him. I love him. I want to know what happens to him, because he's now hailed as this guy who reset the hack and everything, and I can see him not taking this too well in future episodes, because people keep telling him that, and he's like, I'm not that guy, but he kind of has to work with it. So we'll see if he turns crazy as well. I mean, he already is, but you know what I mean. Dom, I finally remembered the police lady's name. We see her at her parents' place. She's also, no one is doing well. We know in Mr. Robot no one's doing well, but you can see that the events of the end of season 3 have definitely left an impact on her, and I mean, she's supposed to be working for the Dark Army now, so we'll see how that comes into play in later episodes, but for now she seems to be threatened by the Dark Army. Like, that last scene with her when she walks her mum's friend to the car, and you think, oh, it's a bit awkward, but then that friend just doesn't even really turn. She just says something really dark in this still nonchalant, nice way, and you suddenly realize, oh, damn, okay, she's still involved in that shit. And I want to know if she really decides to work for the Dark Army, because she kind of has to. Otherwise something happens to her family or herself. And I want to know what the Dark Army wants with her. So I kind of like that they're trying to really intimidate her, and they did that in a really, really impressive way. Like, that lady, the way she acted that in this nonchalant, nice, polite way, I was like, oh, chills, this is not good. Okay, let's talk about him. My boy Elliot, and Mr. Robot, obviously, as well. I kind of like that Elliot is trying to take charge now with this reset of the hack, and now that he's really determined to defeat the Dark Army, and he's trying to work really, really hard on it. I was worried that he was gonna have an absolute breakdown when he finds out that Angela is dead, but they don't actually show that. They have a bit of a skip, and it's 2 weeks later, and Mr. Robot mentions to him, you're just angry and upset about what they did to Angela, and he sort of has a reaction to that, but we don't see how much that influenced him, so I'm curious as to see if they're doing anything more with that, or if they just decide to do okay, it's a thing that happened, but he's now just sort of moving on, trying to keep it down, or if they're doing this route where they're saying, okay, he's actually really upset and angry about it, but he's trying to push it down, but it's working on him. So maybe at some point he'll get super, super angry and pissed about the whole Angela thing. So I kind of still want to see if there's going to be a bigger reaction to that. I knew this guy was going to be a setup when this weird guy, the lawyer, tells Elliot a name, which is sort of a contact, and I thought, the moment he said it, I thought, this is probably going to be a setup. He just wants to get himself out there. It's probably a setup, and it was, and I also still love the way they work this stuff out, like cinematography-wise, when they go into the flat and they slowly show you, oh, there isn't any stuff in the wardrobe, or there's still the price tag and all the things, or there's stuff missing in the drawers. I love the way they reveal information to you in this show. It's just so good. They also had some really well executed and very interesting scenes regarding the whole, meta-narrative and the way Elliot usually talks to the audience and all that, because that's what I meant when I talked about this earlier. They're doing something slightly differently, because almost throughout the entire episode, Elliot doesn't talk to the audience, which is unusual. And I thought, oh, are we not doing that anymore? Or what's going on? But then, like, at some point, like 10 or 15 minutes before the episode ends, Mr. Robot actually starts talking to the audience. And I thought that's such a good idea, because Mr. Robot never talks to the audience. And if he does, it's only to interrupt Elliot, to be like, stop talking to them. And I love that it's Mr. Robot this time around, because it also shows his development, that he's now prepared to talk to Elliot's friend. Like, as he says in the episode, Elliot needs a friend right now, and that's what you still are, right? And you feel like, yes, I want to know what's going on. And you feel, at least that's what it was like for me throughout the episode, you feel kind of a bit, I don't know, sad or disappointed because Elliot doesn't talk to you. You're like, oh, are we not doing this anymore? But I kind of thought this was our thing. And then when Mr. Robot starts talking, you're like, oh, okay, it's you this time. Okay, let's see how this is going. And I want to know what they're doing with this, because Mr. Robot is a different character. He is Elliot to a certain degree, but, we've never had this kind of connection with him, like him talking to us as the viewer. So I'm curious to find out how his relationship to the viewer is going to be, how he approaches that, because he's aware of us and that we're watching him, but he's obviously also interpreting this relationship differently than to what Elliot has been like to us throughout the past 3 seasons. So I don't know, maybe it's just going to be Mr. Robot for the entire season, or most of the season. Maybe it's going to be Mr. Robot and Elliot both talking to us. That would actually be quite interesting. Or maybe he kind of has to convince Elliot to start talking to us again, because he doesn't want to, or he's not in that frame of mind right now that he wants to talk to us. So I hope we get more Mr. Robot audience interaction. I want to see what that's like. Also, they have some really cool ways of showing the switch between the two. There was this one scene where this worked so well, when Darlene comes to Elliot's place to tell him that she has maybe seen Angela or something. And she comes in, it's Elliot, like normal Elliot, and he talks to her, and as soon as Darlene says, I think I saw Angela, you can see Elliot walk out of the frame and Mr. Robot comes right in, like taking his place. That switch was so good. I know it sounds a bit weird, but when you watch it, it looked so cool. Because you could imagine why he was switching in that moment. He hears his sister saying, oh, I saw our dead best friend. And it's this sort of emotional reaction where probably Elliot thinks, okay, no, can't deal with this right now, Mr. Robot has to take over. And that seamless switch between the two is great. And you have Elliot just moving back, sitting down on the couch, and at some point Elliot decides to talk again, and then Darlene just turns around, talks to Elliot again, and Mr. Robot is just moving into the background. And I just love those interactions, how they're doing that, why you know exactly, okay, he's switching now, or this is why he switched, and the characters have no problem interacting with each other, even though it's more people in the scene than they're actually there, if you know what I'm talking about. So again, I love the way how they're working on this with switching Elliot's personality. Okay, and now we come to the ending, because oh my god, I can't even begin to tell you how many reactions I had while watching those last, not even 5 minutes, when you realise, oh shit, they caught him, they're bringing him back to his flat, and they're holding him down, and they're preparing the heroin, I think it was, right? And you think, oh shit, they're actually gonna kill him, they're gonna do it. And as if that isn't bad enough, the guy who does it, the guy who gives him the heroin, turns out to be played by Sam Esmail, and it's fucking amazing. Like, I don't know, even before the reveal, I kind of looked at the actor who was playing him, and you know, I've seen Sam Esmail in a couple of interviews, so I know what he looks like. I just saw the hair, I saw the frame of the glasses, and I didn't see his face. I was like, is this Sam Esmail? Fun. And then it's actually him, and I was like, oh my god, they're actually doing that. Like, they're taking the whole meta-narrative thing to a whole new level, and I'm loving it so much. Just the I don't know, the meaning, the symbolism, the everything behind this one moment when the guy who gives Elliot the overdose so he dies is the man who invented him, and says goodbye friend when he gives him the heroin. Just, you know, mind blown, all that. That was just so fucking good. I mean, it was obviously also bad because they were actually giving Elliot an overdose and he was dying, and I was like, what the fuck's going on here right now? And I think he actually died for like a couple of seconds. At least that's what the noise indicated. I have no idea. But I was actually sitting there thinking, oh my god, they've done it. They've done it. They did it. He's dead. What the fuck is gonna happen? And then, yeah, you actually have the fake out where it says produced by Sam Esmail, and you think, oh shit, that's the end. But then it cuts and we're back in the flat. And I have no idea what this guy's name was. But like Angela's dad, who was there when she died, he comes in and says welcome back. Like they give him something and he wakes up again. And I have no idea what that means, what is going to happen, what is even going on in that scene in that moment. But Sam Esmail is still there, and so is Elliot, and so is Angela's dad, and this was the best ending to an episode ever. Okay, as you can tell, I'm so psyched about this whole ending alone, but like this ending was just the perfect finale of what, again, was probably one of the best, if not the best episode of Mr. Robot. Like, this episode had everything and is such a strong season opener, and I definitely want to know what happens next. Okay, so those are my thoughts on the first episode of season 4 of Mr. Robot. What are your thoughts on it? Put something down in the comments below, try to avoid spoilers or give a spoiler warning beforehand. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.